Hi, so this is the question that I set you to have a think about. Evaluate the view that the Cabinet remains an important part of the executive. So, this is a classic 30-mark question with the evaluate the view, meaning that, of course, you've got to have many little debates going throughout your essay and a clear judgment that you set out at the beginning, you keep coming back to, and that you restate in your conclusion. So, just to remind you of the structure. And what I'm going to focus on in this PowerPoint is really those three mini debates that you're going to have, your section 1, 2, and 3. So in order to get a little mini debate going, you need a theme really around which you can structure your content and your arguments. So we're looking for three themes or three sort of topic areas that we can discuss Cabinet power around. So the three themes that I've come up with are collective responsibility, policy making, and power over the PM. So let's start with collective responsibility first of all. We can argue that this really highlights the importance of the Cabinet in the executive. This is an important convention. The Cabinet needs to speak with one voice. It gives the Cabinet and gives the government strength and unity when the Cabinet is actually on side. And we know very much that Theresa May was weakened when her Cabinet was saying different things about her Brexit plan. And at one point, she had to put down her foot and say, I have to have collective responsibility. Also, the importance of collective responsibility is shown again during the EU referendum, when ministers could say what they wanted to, and Boris and Gove's opposition to David Cameron really undermined his Remain position. Had the Cabinet spoken with one voice, it would have strengthened the PM. And of course, again, another sign of the importance of collective responsibility with John Major, who faced huge splits in his cabinet over Europe, which undermined his position. So all of these really show how important collective responsibility is, and therefore how important the cabinet is as part of the executive. However, of course, with our mini debate going on, the cabinet is sometimes really not a major part of the executive at all. So when collective responsibility is suspended, such as in the EU and the AU referendum campaigns, really it's playing no part at all in policy making and having very little impact at that point. And of course, don't forget, if there is a strong Prime Minister like Blair or Thatcher, even if there are splits and even if collective responsibility is not being adhered to, this has very little impact on the power of the Prime Minister and highlights potentially the weakness of the cabinet within the executive, the fact that it really isn't playing a major role at all. So our second point is policy making, of course. How important is the cabinet on policy making? Well, we could argue that it's very important. There's lots of cabinet committees, all within their own departments, with small groups of ministers. They bring policy ideas to cabinet, which are discussed. Don't forget, of course, the Prime Minister can set up as many different cabinet committees on different topics as he or she wants. And it's within cabinet that policy is thrashed out, spending is thrashed out, and the government then can come to decisions. So it has played a sort of key role, and particularly up to and including throughout the 60s and 70s, that remained an important role of cabinet. And don't forget, during the coalition, the cabinet was very important. That because we had two political parties, there was a need to forge consensus and keep both parties on side for all the different policies. So you could argue that cabinet government came into its own during the coalition, though I've noted here that there were also 4 key people: Cameron, Osborne, Clegg and Alexander, who were kind of like an inner cabinet known as the Quad, who actually decided all major matters of policy. So that kind of undermines that point slightly. On the other side, of course, we've got our biggie, that really since the 1960s, prime ministers have increasingly used other people or bodies to sideline the cabinet. So we know, for instance, that Blair had special advisors, and no one under Blair's cabinet was allowed to be off message. He preferred using Campbell, Jonathan Powell, who didn't have the same constraints on them, and they in fact could give directives directly to the civil service. We had Mo Mowlam actually under Blair saying that he was actually more like a president, and actually she said cabinet is dead.